I mean, it's normal for mentor to disappear when there's work to be done and something to do. So we can start anyway, Jeff. That's fine. Oh, look who's back just when the work is almost done. Oh, hey.
Hey, that's government training. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of skill doesn't happen by accident.
I started the music already.
Yeah.
By
I'm
the way, I'd
recording
just like
already.
to tell everyone that I listened back to last week's episode, and this thing is pretty funny. So it's probably going to make a comeback.
I feel like the first time you try to use it on the lovely and talented Jennifer, it's gonna disappear, or end up in an orifice.
Oh, she's already said keep that downstairs.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to kick this pig?
Let's do it.
just like the wedding night.
Welcome to Everyone Racers, a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture. It doesn't matter what kind of Lemma Champ or Lucky Track Dog you run, SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate as long as you drive it hard and built it yourself. Join us each week for tech discussion, tips, tricks, news and notes from the world of low-dollar endurance racing, and whether it's on the spot, hella sweet, or we're lucky enough. And Jeff gives us just the tip. We're sure you'll giggle a little and learn even less. Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm mental.
And we are Everyone Racers. Thank you for coming back to listen to another Stealth Attack Aircraft episode.
Hell
number.
yes.
See? Yes,
Well
right?
played.
You didn't write that, and I did.
I did not.
It is episode 117.
Give me some knuckles for that
All
one.
right, done.
Boom.
I was just really because you come up with there's only so many things you can talk about, and 117 this seemed to be the funner thing. Anyway,
I got
if
one
you're not
for
driving a
next
car,
week.
get your E1R.
I was going to say, shouldn't we have called it like Budget Overrun Boondoggle episode? The F-117, wasn't that? I'm looking, mental's like, no, shut
it
up.
wasn't. No,
Don't talk about
Operation
my
Just
plate.
Cause, Operation Just Cause, Gulf War I, Gulf War II, Kosovo, Yugoslavia. No, not a boondoggle.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Anyway. What? Okay, get your bingo card out. You never know when this is going to be that show that you're going to get bingo. So, what you working on, Jeff?
Me, I get to start just because I posted the picture of the trailer in the side yard. The internet exploded. Dogs and cats got along. It was amazing. Everyone is exciting. This is not a drill. The side yard project is complete, and Jennifer's response was, well, you don't have to get me anything for Christmas. This is the Christmas present.
She actually posted that exact sentence on her Facebook page,
Oh,
which
she
is
did.
how I found out it was done.
It was
because
real.
Yeah, well, no, it's because I'm ignoring Jeff after a lot of his alternative breakfast meat stances.
Good choice.
But Jen posted he doesn't need to get me a Christmas present, and it was a picture of him actually putting the cover back on the Corvette.
Yeah. So there it is. We did that.
Awesome.
And I did the Christmas tree decorations around the house, and actually used some smart plugs. So I say, like, Alexa, turn on the Christmas lights, and they go on, and Alexa, turn on the tree, and it goes on. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we just have a timer, the old-fashioned kind.
That's
And
it. That's all.
No
I'm
one's
doing.
listening to our
switch.
thoughts through our Christmas tree either, so that's nice.
Right?
Look,
That's
the
good.
Alexa
They're doing
was
that
in
to
the
your
house
Facebook.
anyway. So
That's
Yeah.
true, too.
Okay.
anyway,
And we'll have some news on that
Chrissy,
later.
right back at you. What you working on?
Sure. So the biggest news that Baby Stewart is here.
Whoa, whoa.
Yay! Only a little bit. I'm sorry? Sullivan Graham? I don't watch her on the gram as much, but she does pretty good on the gram. So only a little bit of drama.
He was on the ground. He was quite
Oh
cool.
yeah, he's so cute. He only a little bit of drama when he came on Saturday, and now he's home with the fam. He was sleeping tonight when I saw him, and I went over yesterday to give him some hugs. So the nickname, dun, 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 his name is Henry Joseph. His nickname is Han.
Well,
Oh, Han.
Oh, little Han.
good.
Only one of them, Han Solo.
All right. Well, he goes by both right now, but we're not really yelling at him. And they were joking about next time when the Christmas tree's around. Han, stop getting the Christmas tree. Stop it. Sabaton.
Okay.
So we'll see.
It's short, so it's better for yelling.
Yes.
Yeah. One syllable, important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, we've been extracurriculars keeping me busy. Lots of Christmas stuff since we just decided we just really take over Christmas and we make it all happen. So we have been doing a lot of Christmas shopping, made 1,000 candles and Christmas cards, all that good stuff. So that's what's keeping us busy. I hate asking this question. Chris, what you working on?
I'm beginning to sound repetitive on these "What You Working On" segments. Because it's pretty much the same
thing. I
thing.
did 9 weeks straight trying to get a trailer in a side yard. I think you're all right.
Yeah. It's more the
Actually,
same.
I'm more interested in what you're doing, Chris, than I am in what Jeff's doing.
I mean, it's some more Mercedes work. I'm at a stopping point because the fine people at FCP Euro sent me 1 intake manifold gasket instead of 2 intake manifold gaskets because, V8 and stuff. But they were very nice about it. When I told them that was a problem, they promptly shipped me another one. It's in the mail now, so that's nice.
Hashtag they should still sponsor us.
Yeah, they're very nice people. Did some house stuff as usual. Welded up some brackets for the iRacing setup to mount a 300ZX seat to it because it just, who knows? They didn't make it fit a 1992 300ZX passenger seat. I don't know why, but they didn't.
Say, what kind of fly-by-night shady company did you buy this thing from?
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever one was Amazon that didn't come with a seat and looked okay otherwise, because I don't need to pay $100 for another seat around this place. I got enough seats. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't go with those cool racing buckets you have in the basement. The ones I almost took.
yeah, you can have those all you want. Those are like the vintage ones.
They
Yeah.
smell like cat pee a little.
No, not those.
No, not
No.
those. Which are the ones that smelled like the cats?
The ones that Jim Thwaite had? No.
Oh.
They live in the basement, and we have one cat who doesn't go in the
Who
basement.
doesn't go in the
So,
basement?
Yeah. So I don't
no
know.
cat pee here.
Either way, those are that the seat is now on. Everything's mostly the pedals are bolted to the thing. The seat, the steering wheel's bolted on. The shifter's bolted on. Everything's pretty well ready to go. I just need some time to actually, use it and try it and get it going. Like I tried it on the desk 2 weeks ago, and it worked enough to work. But I actually have to try it in the setup now. So anyway, did a lot of cooking. Gonna keep doing a lot of cooking. Mental.
I know I'm stealing from a future show. What kind of processor setup did you elect to go with? Because everyone who listens to the show knows that you do a lot of research, and I've been meaning to actually pick your brain about it because I've got a computer builder here. But just an overview of what computer you're using to power this.
I got a pretty good Black Friday deal. The processor's an AMD Ryzen 5 3600, I think. I have to look at the
Mojo
specs on it. It's supposedly pretty decent. 8 gigs of RAM, 250 SSD, NVIDIA 1660 graphics card. Anyway, we'll have another show about the setup and what kind of things are necessary. But we have to get a fairly decent, decent-ish. It's not really good if you're a gamer, but it's good enough for the kind of crap we do to run the Oculus and give good frame rates and stuff to the Oculus. So anyway.
And I know processor speed and video memory are all components of that, but I'm not smart enough to understand it. But when I dumped it at my computer guy's step, like, hey, this is what I'm going to try to do. He went, ooh, and he got all excited because now it's a puzzle for him to solve.
Yeah. I'll send you the specs, but we'll go over it in another episode of getting started in sim racing. There's a preview for the future, folks. Coming up soon.
And it also coming up soon is come race with us on iRacing. So,
That's all.
All right,
what have you been doing aside from not researching computers?
So, well, and I'll alibi this a little bit, and everyone who listens to the show or who knows us, I could do a lot of research, and I could come up with some really good ideas. And some of these will be really good ideas, and some of them will be really bad ideas, or I could just go to the guy that I know that does a lot of research, and I'm just going to ask him. And then usually I get the 90% solution. It's kind of how I ended up with the Mercedes, really, if we think about it. So I've been working on RV cleanup. We've actually been unpacking and donating even more stuff. To wit, I now have half of a functional garage again. Yay! So
Yay.
I've been working on some motorcycle stuff, and officially in the mail today, I are a Nevada driver. Yay! And they transferred over my commercial qualification.
Great.
So there's that.
What is your commercial qualification?
Bus.
Bus. Oh, that's right. Bus, because you drove the bus.
Because I drove.
That's right.
Not just a struggle
And-
bus.
I'd like to point out it was a full size bus. All right, it was the there was no shortness to the bus. And then today we're starting to wind down for the holiday season. So a coworker whose call sign is Too Fast, he and I went over to the Exotics Racing, which is about 10 minutes from my office, and we threw down a couple of laps on their go-kart track. And so now I am the 9th fastest driver of the week, my first time out.
Cool.
Yay.
Yeah,
Yay.
It was fun.
Fantastic.
It was
Good.
cool. Yeah.
Excellent.
There were some poor tourists that we had to lap a few times. I don't think they were happy with us, but
Well, that's
Yeah.
not that exciting news, but we do have exciting news
We
in
do.
our section we call News and Notes.
And- this is a bit of a depressing one, but Bill Simpson, the notorious bar fighter, former Indy 500 competitor, but most important to all of us, the motorsports safety pioneer, passed away at age 79 after a massive stroke. Every major and minor gearhead publication had a bit of a tribute to him, and every one of the comments of the articles, there were dozens of stories of people who credit Simpson or Impact products with saving their lives. And as a minimum, he brought safety equipment into the mainstream. He's the one that brought Nomex. He was the one that hounded everybody that was driving the Indy 500, NHRA drag racing, everything. He was the one that got all of that stuff into people's context. And if you race and it's safe, Bill Simpson is a major factor in that. So he will absolutely be missed.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Link in the show notes to a racer.com article.
Cool.
Cool.
So, some listeners and friends, the Sloman brothers in Apocalypse Racing, they met with some tragedy at Road Atlanta. The past race-winning Toyolette seems to keep running, but the front wheel ended up set back about 3 inches back after a good solid hit. According to Brett, might be their final farewell. That's a shame.
Cool. This week's edition of Your Car May Be Trying to Kill You, tinfoil hat edition. Actually, your car is trying to steal your data to profit off of. Turns out
you don't need Alexa to do it. Your
Is
car
this
will do
news?
it.
No. This is not news.
Your
There's
Jag will do it.
There is an interesting article out, so that's why it is news today.
Okay.
There's no laws stopping your car from collecting and use your data in any way that it feels like it. So the Washington Post recently hacked a 2017 Chevy Volt to see what it knew about the drivers in it. Of course, it knew where you went and how you drove, but it also collected who you called, who was in your contacts, all of their information, including their names, addresses, and pictures, which it took off the internet, because we all know that GM cars have what? OnStar. So just like any other car out there, OnStar just basically is an internet connection. So it went out to the internet and collected all this information about your friends. It used a unique identifier from your phone. And by the way, you agreed to all of this when you purchased a car with OnStar. The article went on to basically say that it's not just GM. The expert in the article who did the hacking saw other cars collecting things like audio recordings of your voice commands, a la Alexa, app usage. It gave driving scores. They said there was one German automobile that had a 500 gig drive. So it was set up to save so much information. It had as much memory as probably my laptop. So that's fun.
So that Volvo wagon and Toyota truck of mine are starting to look better and better.
Looking real good. Article from the Washington Post in the show notes.
See, I want to know which one had a driving score, and how can I beat that score? Like,
really, I figure I could take my score of my car against your score in your car, and it would probably be like a half a point behind, just consistently wherever we went, no matter what we did.
Until I knew that you beat me, and then I would make mine higher. So.
If you see the GPS arrival time as a challenge,
oh yeah,
this podcast is for you.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Right? Of course. Chrissy, do you know when they made the first automobile race? When they had two of them. As soon as they had two cars, they raced them.
So there's two of anything, you raced them.
Oh, I thought this was like a trick question. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Actually, probably the very first auto race was Auto vs. Horse. So anyway, that's not important. What's important is that upcoming races are coming. Champ Car will be in Florida for a Sebring New Year's Eve, 28th and 29th of December at Sebring International Raceway. It is a double 7 Enduro weekend. Check it out. Hope it's warm enough. Should be Daytona, right? Or Sebring, right?
Sebring, yeah.
It can get cold down there. We know it'll be bumpy, though. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Bring lots of tires.
Tell you another recent news. Champ Car was at Laguna Seca for a very Monterey Christmas. Saturday saw Sweet Spot racing in their 325 E30 V8 in a sweet spot on the podium. They also turned the fastest lap of the day with a 1:43.0. Second was Team Octane in a Mini Cooper S, and less than a minute behind in third went to Last Minute Racing, another boring BMW, and that last minute was why you're in third. Or also BMW. Uh-huh.
Now, Sunday had the Tooth Autosport in a 92 Honda Civic. On that same lap, 30 seconds behind him was Team Octane again, and third again was Last Minute Racing for all of the reasons Chris just mentioned.
They need that minute back.
Or they're just consistent. Okay, let's talk lemons at Road Atlanta. So we have some sentiment from the almighty Rude. So carnage. There are cars in various walls at Road Atlanta. Not really sure what they. First time that they had nice weather at this track, so people were just too comfortable driving too fast. Who knows? The only one who had a multi-car accident, and the rest were self-inflicted. They are. This is from Rude. Look for them to be a little tougher for 2 offs and 1 offs next year at Road Atlanta. So that's kind of crazy.
They were all trying to impress Sarah. They were like,
maybe so.
Special times.
I'm going to cover some of the injured parties later, Chrissy, but keep going.
Okay, so the overall winner was Save the Tatas, overcame a 6-lap handicap to win just under a lap over Ginger Race Team, which we watched a couple. I opened the app a couple times. They were winning for a while, and then all of a sudden Tatas came out of nowhere. Depending on how you look at it, Eric thinks he gave them just enough, or maybe one too few BS laps. So
I always like it when Tatas come up unexpectedly. They just show up.
They're just so fast too. Right? Get out. Class B, Surreal Time Civic also overcame a 6 BS lap to win B, and they are never going to sniff Class B ever again. And Class C was the Unicorn Speedwagon, ran very much like the Subaru this weekend, dominated C for most of the weekend.
Very much unlike a Subaru in that it didn't blow head gaskets, it didn't blow wheel bearings.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Didn't do any of those terrible things the Subarus usually do. So
you're all right.
What kind of Subaru is that? Does anybody know?
Forester.
Oh, the rich race heritage in the Forester line.
Absolutely.
Heroic Fix. This is probably one of the coolest stories I've seen come out of any of the series in a long time. So 4 or 5 guys, they all lived together in a house, and they bought an X-Drift 240 SX to make into a Lemons car. So before they start digging into it, their house burned down, and the only thing that survived was the carport and the Nissan. And they've been living out of an RV and still preparing the car, but their cage builder, finger quotes, self-proclaimed expert, in quotes, at race car fabrication, built, and this is a quote, one of the worst cages they had seen in a while. It's on the website, people.
Oh, I saw it.
Download the PowerPoint of how not to fail tech. So they failed tech, but they found a welder in Atlanta who came out and built them a proper cage in the paddock on Friday and Saturday. They passed tech, ran 25 laps, and did not finish dead freaking last. Guys, if you're out there, get a hold of us on the social media, because we would love to send you guys some stickers, but we'd love to talk to you just to the story. Now, Screwed Part 1. We mentioned Apocalyptic Racing. Brett couldn't make it because he had a family emergency. So Nate, how do I pronounce that last name? Schwallen?
Schwallen, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Sure,
Nate
looks
Schwallen picked up the trailer and drove it down from Milwaukee. Well, I thought they were at St. Louis. Anyway, the Celica's rebuilt differential blew up 40 minutes into the race. So the two team members who were there had to swap in this not as cheaty diff without knowing where to find anything in their trailer. Sunday morning, the poor car got stuffed into a tire wall, which Chris talked about earlier. 3 inches back. They did get it back on the track for a bit, but they went home early and therefore didn't get the trophy. Double screwed. So the real screwed went to the rod throwing fools in their MR2. They were leading by 5 laps on Sunday afternoon, and then the driver blew it going into turn 10, spun it on his own, and put it into the wall.
They were leading most of the weekend, actually, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah, and 10's kind of a hard one to. I mean, it's 10A and B, so it's the 290 switchbacks, but it's kind of hard to find a wall. How fast was he going?
Well, it's an MR2. Sometimes they just kind of spin.
Okay, yeah, sometimes,
You lift.
sometimes they just spin. I'm just going to spin.
That's a pretty epic
I'm an
wiener
MR2.
step for that guy.
Yeah, it is. I'm sure the whole team is so mad.
Uh-huh. All right. Judge's choice went to the Honda Express. They, quote, sucked on Saturday, and we made them go Christmas caroling in the paddock. They didn't know any Christmas carols and had to look up the lyrics to Jingle Bells.
Yo, seriously.
What are they, communists?
No.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. How do you not
That's probably
know?
that's probably where they stopped. I don't know. Jingle
oh my
bells.
gosh.
They just keep saying that. Apparently, after having to go Christmas caroling, they only got one flag the entire rest of the weekend. Hey,
Good.
sometimes
Good
Rah, 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 rah.
negative reinforcement works. That's why we have a chin deck.
Yes.
Org choice. Russ Cartel's Fairlane that was at Pitt, and it's got the org choice just because, as Eric says, because it's effing awesome. That's great. Excellent.
True.
Of course.
You should see the pictures they had of that thing on their Instagram. It looks like it is scraping the windows, the door handles.
So, Life for the Paddock. Technically, they gave it to Donnie's mom for having to see how disappointing Lemons is to one's parents firsthand. But Fail Inc. and Florida Man held a chili cook-off, potluck, and a Pinewood Derby for Donnie's birthday. Donnie acted like a petulant child, a.k.a. a Florida Man, all weekend, and then shouted at his mom in his best trailer park voice as well. Also worth noting, Eric's entry into the Pinewood Derby was a full can of Yingling, which won its first-round matchup.
Nice.
So, excellent there.
So I talked to Donnie about that, and apparently throughout the races that can kept getting less and less full. So that he was unable to figure out how, but apparently he thinks that Eric was cheating somehow.
Who knows? Jeff, isn't weight good when you're doing
yes,
those kind of downhill
weight
races?
is all what you do. The heaviest thing goes down the ramp the fastest. So
there you go. And IOE went to Troy Hogan's Datsun 240Z of tetanus fame. Jay declared it to be too falling apart to continue racing. So after some 30-something races in 12 years, it was basically a Lifetime Achievement of Sadness award for Troy's Datsun.
We have a film on not the Racers YouTube, but on my personal YouTube of our Miata that we built right after our race with you guys, chasing that car at Texas World Speedway for the better part of 6 laps. It was our nemesis forever. I remember when that thing got stuck in gear and we were still worried that it was going to beat us for the national effing championship. So there is some, pour some out for your homies about that 240Z.
there it is.
30-some races, that's a pretty good run.
things-
I'm going to have to...
That's a great run.
Yeah.
Other cars that might not ever be coming back. So 101 Bite Marks Racing Yellow 240 SX. Ooh, went right into the wall. Probably the biggest hit of the weekend. You can see the front frame horn is absolutely torn up. Word is from teammate Keith Kemp that it might be salvageable, and they're going to see if they can save it. There was a gray number 60. Couldn't tell what it was. It was awful square. Kind of looked like an S10, but I couldn't tell. Did a double tap on the wall, but they say that'll buff out. There's a E30 number 700. It was gray and black, and it was in turn 5. I don't know what the team name was. I couldn't figure it out, but they went off, hit the tires, which proceeded to push their car up, and it almost jumped the fence.
Well,
it
you
did
can
make
get
it
some
back before the end of
good
the weekend.
speed. After you're going down that hill, coming back up, if your brakes aren't working before you make that little left at the gravel pit, you can get going, and especially with the bump and the curb there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot
met-
of people will get stuck in that gravel, and they'll end up on the roof.
Yeah, they basically said there's not enough gravel to slow you down, and that's why you hit the tires so hard. We already mentioned the Rod Throne Fools and Apocalyptic Toilet, right? But also I want to mention that Duff Beer and Knox Vegas were both involved in car bending incidents, but I could not find any pictures of the carnage, so I do not know exactly what happened. So yeah, what's worse? Wet day at Road Atlanta or a dry day?
Apparently dry day.
Well, wet day, when you hit
They
stuff,
said.
you're going a little more slowly when you do. Yeah.
Anybody hear anything about how our 3-Pedal Mafia team did?
Not well.
I know it was off the track for a while, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Our
sorry
man
for
at the
parties,
track,
Porsche,
Florida
though.
Man Donnie said, yeah.
What is one of your time? One of them? You said you're supposed together.
Go, Chris.
So, sorry for party. Matt was there, and Steve was running with them too. Their 944. This is the first time it has ever not immediately and just heart-stompingly blowed up.
Race-endingly, yeah.
Right. It usually just tears their hearts out. This time it ran all weekend. They got 11th, so they were really happy about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our man at the track, Dr. Florida Man, said that the Mercedes spent some time up on the jack stands, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
It always does that, though.
Same word came from Dishwashing Fairy Steve. I sent him a message, said, why is the Mercedes out? And he says, they're working on it. I'm not going to go ask. They don't look happy. So
They never do. So that's just a good place.
yeah.
We kept looking for it on Race Monitor, and we're like, what? It's still not running. Okay. Cool.
And we didn't talk about that or put this in the show notes, but also Fail Inc. We talked about last week. It was supposed to be there were 2 Florida Man teams, and Chrissy, you were right. There were 2 Fail Inc. / Florida Man teams, but then a third imposter Florida Man. And on their Instagram, Fail Inc. had them over there laying provocatively on the imposter Florida Man's teams, which apparently they were too scared to come to the shirtless gator wrestle off.
That's good. They were running low on bath salts, so they couldn't do it anyway.
Next stop, listener feedback. Next stop, listener feedback. Thank you.
Still, it's too clear for the bus stop.
It is. You need to put something in your mouth. Put some socks in your mouth, and then.
Next stop.
Damn it! Is that my stop or not? I don't know what he said.
Well, Guardrail the Churs asked on their Instagram, if you're not listening to Everyone Racers, what are you doing with your life? So thanks to the Supra team, I will respect your pronouns and call you the Supra team.
Something more.
Looks like a Chevy to me.
They're doing something a lot better with their life, like something productive, perhaps. Maybe.
Oh.
Right.
You can still do productive things and listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
You know
You know
who's
who-
productive?
Always productive while listening to our podcast. Chrissy's mom.
You know who
Hi,
else
Chrissy's
produced something? Actually produced something during the run of this podcast. I dare say it's the first and only child both conceived and produced in the time that we started doing this.
There are
This is
many
true.
millions of children in the world that have been
I mean,
conceived and
other-
produced during the
the
time
one
we
that
run
we
this
know.
podcast, but only the one we know. Yes.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Sure. Is this the first grandchild in your circle
Right.
anywhere?
Yep.
Like even aunts and uncles, you don't have cousins?
No,
Oh, okay.
we're like the last ones on the cousins, but it's us. We're just our family.
Got it. Let's move on to the main topic.
Topic.
Is this officially part of the Going Faster series? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I feel like it's something else. Going Faster has been about what you're doing in the car. This is a little half step away from that.
Yeah. All right. So, Chrissy, you came up with this brilliant idea, I believe. Why don't you tell us what we're talking about?
Sure. I don't know that I did, but I will take credit for it. So we're going to talk about how to do a great pit stop. So a pit stop can make or break a race. They're high pressure. They're usually trying to get a lot of things done in a small amount of time while wearing a spacesuit. Awesome. It can be really frustrating when you're trying to talk to your teammates. Think of charades in the spacesuit when you're trying to yell to your friends and hold up a seatbelt in your hand and show your friend why are you showing
it's not
this thing.
Connected.
Right. You're like, here's
I
the
shouldn't be
seatbelt.
able
And
to
then-
hold this outside of the car and show
and
you
Jeff's
this.
like, Jeff's
No,
like, put
sit
it in.
the car.
Put
not
it back
your
in the
hand,
hole.
one
It's
is-
in the hole.
And everybody just yells at each other, looking at each other in a spacesuit. Anyway, so for race series that have timed pit stops, this, doing your pit stop is not as important. But if you suddenly need to make that unplanned one pit stop and it would be outside your time limit, then you automatically need to do this quickly and efficiently. Make sure that you know the rules. Even in each series, they can vary from track to track. So since it's so important, we're going to talk about all the aspects that can make or break your pit stop. Chris, it's you.
Well, let's talk about what makes up a pit stop that we're going to talk about today. Let's define the brackets of our discussion. We've got to remove the driver that's in the car. We've got to add the fuel. Got to install a new driver in the car. And let's assume we're going to do a cool box service because most races we're going to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, first off, you've got to prep for this because the times where you just have three people running, screaming toward the wall are not your good, efficient pit stops. No one really knows what they're doing, even if you've done this a million times. So before you get out there, everyone should be prepped on what the roles and responsibilities are and what the order of operations will be. So you go through that a couple times, make sure everyone knows what their job is and where they're supposed to be, and that is a help. This also includes the driver who's in the car. They need to know this too. So get on the radio, tell them what they're doing. Even if it's just get out of the car and go away, that's fine. Then they know, and they'll go away. So everyone needs to know. You need to think a little bit about how many people you need. Now, this depends a lot on the length of the stint the driver was just doing. If they've been out for 3.5 hours and it's August, they are going to be useless. So get them out of the car.
A puddle of sweat.
Right. Get them out of the car, make them go away, and have some water and sit in the air conditioning. So then, realistically, your minimum is 2, but you really need 3. 4 is okay, but 3 is your minimum for a good stop. So new driver going in cannot handle any fuel if possible. If anything spills, it gets on them, then they're in the car, and we don't want them to burn to death, so no fuel for them. The good things for them to do are the driver removal, fire bottle, nothing at all, whatever. They can just get in the zone and prepare to dominate. So get everybody prepped for their job. Jeff.
I'm going to put in a plug for not using the driver, and I'm going to put it in for a different reason. I have been in the car. I have gotten out and I felt great. I've gotten out and I felt like crap. I've gotten out and I've been able to do a job or not do a job. But I've also been in the car where the radio stops working, where I don't know what my job is because plans may have changed. So have a default. And if the default is driver doesn't do something, then if you have a radio problem, then you really don't have a problem.
Yeah. I'd say we either do that or driver does a fire bottle, I think. One of the two.
But to Jeff's idea, you'd have to make sure that whoever gets out knows what they're doing, and it might be easier for you not to throw it at them.
I mean,
do I put in 2 cans? Do I put in 1 can? Is it going to take 15 gallons, 17 gallons? You know what I mean? Like, those are the kinds of discussions that happen in the pit that if the driver is the person dumping the fuel, you now have to yell through the spacesuit, put 3 in, put 4, like it's just easier if that driver has the simplest job possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a big team, then get the driver out of there, and they're done for now. They'll do the next one.
Right. And to counter Jeff's point, like, having a simple job, if I hand you a fire extinguisher, you know what your job is.
Sure.
But yeah, if at all humanly possible, just get them out of there. We'll talk about that more in a second. Sorry. We're burning pod.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, first step.
No, we're on the pod. I don't think that actually burns the pod. We talk about it
while you're on it.
Off the pod, then that's burning the pod.
All right, we're ready to move on now. Okay, we're going to talk about removing the driver. Okay, so for removing the driver, you want to put some onus on the driver to prepare for the pit stop. We've tried hard to make, we have done a good job of making our belts easy, and we have pull-ups on the top to make it so that you can pull up on them to loosen your belts on pit row before you get to the stop. If you can manage a waist, it's great, but really pulling your seat back. And I realize that not everybody has seats on sliders, which you probably should. If you don't, maybe that's a good winter project. But it will bring your belts. If you pull your seats out, then your lap belt will come undone a little bit easier. Oh, and here's a plug for surgical tubing to help when you've pulled them up and taken your belts off. That will help you get your driver out quicker. And so all of this is car specific. So it depends on how you fit in your car and about the next person that's getting in. It's really important to consider. So if the next person's much bigger, pull all the belts, pull the seat back, and make your adjustments accordingly. Watch the removal of cool hoses, because when you're trying to drive and unbuckle yourself, ours has occasionally gotten stuck open, water escapes, ends up looking like I went to the bathroom, which I swear I did not. But
whatever.
Or like a fuel
water.
leak too. Yeah.
Yeah, so it has poured all over the place. And then and also to remove your radio plug as you go down pit lane, but not before, because it's really hard to put back in, and making sure that you have already talked to your team. Your team knows that you're there. So that's basically the last thing. As you're opening the door, pull that one out. And don't forget that the driver needs to take your water bottle as you leave. Don't use the parking brake. Oh, I'm glad somebody add that in for me. Don't use parking brake. Leave it in gear. Turn the kill switch off. And I wanted to hear about everybody else's ideas on the yanker. Somebody to pull the person out. Does it work? How efficient is it? You guys go.
So,
I'm glad you explained what yanker was, because I was going a totally different way. So I'll just erase what I had in my notes for the yanker, and I'll let everyone else talk.
Right, so this idea, I got this from talking to Manny. So they think this works great for them. They have the biggest guy in their team suit up, and his job is to get out there and grab the shoulders of the driver who's in the car and just yank them up out of the car to get them out really quickly. Because every driver suit has really strong handles on the shoulders to remove your sack of meat if you're unconscious or something, right? So they just use those and have this big guy, as soon as the belts are off, he grabs and he just lifts them up out of the car, and then they can start fueling that quick. Yes, Jeff?
I just actually want to say this. Like, when I thought the yanker was a silly idea. I was like, but I can get out myself and blah, 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 blah. But we have already done this for the belts, because a lot of teams, the driver puts on their own belts, and we do not do that. The driver puts his hands up,
right. Well,
and
we're
lets someone else do all the belts.
We're talking about that later in the
but that's what I'm saying. We are
section.
taking away a driver job, so getting out of the car, maybe a yanker's a good idea.
It depends on the person and how agile and nimble they are.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I really don't need a yanker.
No, like Chrissy gets out of the car easy. Jim, we gotta work to get him out sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's the biggest guy on our team. How are we gonna get somebody to yank?
Yeah.
But honestly,
see, this is...
Go ahead, Mental.
Well, no, finish your statement, because
I was gonna say, yanking 50 pounds of pressure on the shoulders makes it easier to get out, even if you're still propelling most of your weight.
And I've had to be the yanker on some teams. Actually, oddly enough, always a Miata. And because the Miatas are very, very confined.
Tiny.
And, the the door bars, if they're built properly, they come up kind of high. And if you're running a hard top on there, it's hard to get folks out of there. Or if you're running the cargo net in there. And so you also, instead of, you've got the yank the sack of meat handles. Another option is you have them cross their arms. And once they're clear of everything, they lean up and get their body against the door bars. I'm graphically displaying this on the camera. And the only person that can see this is Jeff. But
Yeah.
Oh, we
They
can
see
see
it.
there.
and you basically firemen drag them out of the car. It's the same concept. Get them out of the way now. A lot of series, you can't touch the fuel if there's a driver still in the car. Some of them, that's all you're allowed to do. But in either case, the quicker you get the driver out of there, the quicker you move to phase 2, which is installing the next driver. And if you've got someone that moves a little slow, it can be a problem. Or if they're just having a hard time clearing their helmet because you have a limited field of vision, having a yanker does have a good strategic and tactical advantage almost immediately to get them out of the car and move on into phase 2. You'll know if while you're timing your pit stops, they're spending an inordinate amount of time waiting on the driver to exit the car. Then you consider doing a yanker. But the yanker's job is to do only that. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the biggest in terms of size, but it should be a relatively strong person. Like Bruce Leote could be a really good yanker.
As long as Greg's not getting out of the car. Now, the yanker can also help with the driver installation later on, but we'll get back to that. Because really,
Yeah,
step
but
2
when
is
they're
not
yanking, that's their job. Yeah.
step 2 is not install driver. Step 2, Jeff, let's add some fuel because that's
Let's
why
add
we're
some
here.
Fuel, heck yeah! So whatever your rules are, they're probably kill switch off, visors down, everyone clear, don't touch the car anywhere else, and basically your setup is going to dictate how you dump the fuel in. But what we're really talking about here is what you can be doing this winter to make yourself better. So really, you really got to look at your fuel jugs. Now's the time to decide: is there time to rebuild any faulty parts? Is there something leaking? Is there a cap that's terrible? Is the hose too long? Is the hose too short? Like, you have to do that not at the track. You have to do that over the winter or between races. So that's why I'm saying winter is the time to act. Build your new vents. Hunsaker always has winter deals. I think we bought ours in the winter because that's when they have the deals. So you can practice, you can adjust, you can change a vent, you can practice all winter long in your tub, right? Fill it up, pour it out to see how it does. Fill it up, pour it out. So basically, you need to act when you're not at the racetrack in getting all of your fueling down right. Do you need to fabricate a custom shape or size drip pan? You can do that all winter long in your garage.
I've seen some really
All right?
good ones on like BMWs where the fuel filler is kind of right above the wheel. So they were like a U shape and they went around the wheel to kind
Around
of catch
the
it
wheel,
all from everywhere.
exactly.
And they had good sides on it. Those were some good looking pans.
Yeah. So
guys I ran Thunderhill with had one of those. It was nice. It's like a really nice fabricated, welded up piece. It was awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk real quickly about how to make a fast jug. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it because everyone is going to have their own recipe. If you Google it, you'll find it out. But basically, I'm
Step
going to
1,
give you our secret.
buy a Hunsaker.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're done.
But if you're using other kinds and you're adding a vent and you're changing the fuel, the cap size, if you have a jazz can or whatever, there is a thing called a through hull nozzle. It is the greatest piece of plastic. You can buy it on Amazon for like $5-6. You can get it in whatever size hose you need. And then you don't have to step up or step down. You basically drill the right size in your cap. You put the one side looks like a mushroom, and the other side bolts on. So it is basically a flat plane inside your cap that you can glue wherever you're going to go. And I'm going to tell you what kind of glue to get. It's called Seal All. Seal All with the little fuel, the little like gas can on it. It's fuel safe. It is the greatest glue in the world. So Google how to build a fast can. I'll give you a hint. You put a vent at the bottom. When you turn it up, it pulls all the fuel out. You're going to put a hose on it that is as big as your nozzle is going into the car. Right? Right. You work out your own details. You customize it your way, and you practice with it all winter long. And then you know what you do? You get your slobby teammates together for a weekend, and you practice the fueling. Practice the pouring, practice moving, practice passing the fuel jugs. I'm the guy who builds our fuel jugs, and how many times do I have to yell, "Don't pick that up by the hose! Don't pick that up by the hose!"
All the time.
All the time. Teach the people how to pick up your fuel jug. Go ahead, Mental.
So Hunsaker has responded to this market demand, and they now have a metal vent tube, the U vent tube that we all do with Home Depot parts, that is strong enough to pick up the entire jug.
Sure. And they have molded vents. That means you don't have to build your own vent tube. So,
only thing authorized in NASA now.
Yeah, basically the answer is to buy a Hunsaker unless you have some kind of weirdo custom setup like all of us in Lemons do. So
or
anyway,
you live in New Jersey and want actually to put gas in your gas
have to
cans.
have red. Exactly.
I was like, everyone starts off with the weirdo dummy setup with various off-brand gas cans, and then everyone ends up with a Hunsaker.
Although it doesn't fit every car. Like the ones Jeff makes fit the Honda really well because we have to fuel in the hatch, and the Hunsaker, the shape of them doesn't let us get the same angle on it. So like we
actually have that problem with all of 3PM's cars have different jug setups. We can't use we can't use the same ones, especially with the I want to say the TR setup that had that little short stuff.
They got rid of that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. So, like, when even just our team, we have to swap the gas sometimes out of the whole jug to use the different ones, and they all work for us. So, it works.
The difference between if you have a cell with a big old hole in it, and if you're going through a stock filler neck like Mental doesn't have in his Toyota pickup truck, it all makes a difference. So anyway,
you can pour through Mental's filler neck real easy.
That's right. It's just not going to get
the fastest gas insert ever.
But don't be smoking.
Here's the deal. You're going to have to customize some sort of setup. The hose length, the hose width, what's on the end of the hose, where the barbs are, that all is car specific. Now is the time to do it. Now is the time to teach your idiot friends how to do it. You could do it with water. You could bring everybody around, fill the frickin' jugs with water, and be like, "Here, dumbass, pour this out into the damn tub. Here, everybody put on your space suits."
Or pour it into 5-gallon buckets and reuse it so you're not wasting so much water.
Yeah, sure. Water. Thanks, Greta Thunberg.
Hey, I live in the desert. It matters.
No, but seriously, Mental's got a pool. Dump it in, dump it out of the pool. Don't dump the water into your fuel system. Not a good idea.
That's what I was gonna say that.
But seriously, we're talking about training and we're talking about practicing. So get in your frickin' gear and practice what you're doing. Bam, done.
Okay, move
on. Wow, mic drop, Jeff. Mental.
Folks, those jugs are heavy, and if you don't lift weights, you
hold on a minute. I have to do the Beavis thing. Say it again. The jugs are heavy.
Those jugs are heavy. If you're the type of person that's on a pit crew and you don't lift a lot of stuff for a little bit, you can't hold it for about 3.5 minutes. Maybe just swing by and just do a couple of curls. That's all we're saying. Now, the next aspect of what we're talking about
is reading the notes and seeing what's actually there in the latest version of the notes. You've got to get somebody when you're fueling to stage. You got to stage your fuel jugs. You can't just have the guy fueling. You're going to put more than one jug in. You've got to get ready to go. If you've got a car with a cell, you're putting in 3 or 4 jugs. You need to save the time by having them ready for that guy. So as the person rolls the cart up to the wall, make sure the cart with the fuel jugs is right next to the wall. Make sure the jugs on the cart have the handles all facing where you're going to be. So when you reach over the wall, you grab the proper handle so you avoid grabbing it by the hose and aggravating the guy that builds them. Then, as your fueler is working, you need one person to place a new jug nearby them, but not too close, so that when the first jug is empty, they just reach over, put the empty jug down, grab the full one, and go back to fueling. So minimizing the time in between cans. Then you again replace the empty one with another full one and repeat. So some series require a hand on the jugs all the times when on the wall. That's okay. You can be there and do that, but just making really their whole goal is to minimize the time that you're not fueling during this whole setup. And your fire bottle. What? Go ahead.
Bruce Leote suggests that we keep a hand on the jugs at all times.
Bruce wishes he had a hand on the jugs at all times.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, fire bottle. It's very simple, but very important. And I see so many people do it wrong. You stand 5 to 10 feet away, so if something blows up, you're not involved in it, so you can actually do something.
Yeah. Good point.
Put the fire out.
Right. I see people standing right next to it. Like, no, you're not helpful there. The other thing, you got to have your pin pulled.
They probably don't know how to use a fire extinguisher.
Right.
That's probably the first problem.
You got to have your pin pulled, too, so if you're ready to use it, you can, as opposed to you go squeezing it's not working, you can pull the pin. And lastly, point the fire bottle at the fueler, not at the car. You're not trying to save the car. You're trying to save your dumbass friend. So,
Chris, I don't care about you. The Civic. Don't let the Civic burn. Oh, I'm sorry.
We all know Chris would go, put out the car first. But no, we're going to put you out first, Chris.
I'll roll around on the ground. I learned that in elementary school.
I'll deal with you after the car is okay?
Yeah. That was a lot of work. So yeah, I mean, fire bottle seems so simple, but so many people do it wrong. It's really stand a little bit away, point it at the guy, pin pulled, be ready. Go.
Nice.
Go.
And if your fueler is on the opposite side of if you're away from the wall, if you're into traffic, have that fire guy facing traffic so that your fueler doesn't get runned over, Dilbert.
Also a nice idea.
Good idea.
Don't stand with your back to traffic.
Okay. Now,
back to you, Menzel.
Sorry, and I jumped the gun. But Chris broke down the elements of what we do in a pit stop. You are removing a driver, installing fuel, installing a new driver, and then in certain cases, working on the cool box. These are your basic elements. Work on getting those down, then work on speed. It's like every sport you ever played. They have you go through the drill slowly till you know what you're doing. So we're going to talk about you've removed that driver, you've installed the fuel, let's install the driver. Have it defined who is doing what and in what order. What can the driver do to help? In my experience, when you've got a mature pit team or a pit crew and a mature team, the less the driver does who's getting in the car, the better. Don't fiddle with anything. All right. Now, a technique that I have taken with great success from the 3-pedal mafia to a dozen teams is the hands up, hands down technique. So when you get into the car as the driver, you just tell them, you slap the helmet and go, hands up. And they take their hands and they put them straight up to the ceiling. And that is for you and the other person who's helping strap in the driver on either side to do the waist belts. If you're wearing a helmet, this is really hard to see. And if you have a driver, you've got your hands in there, that's another pair of hands and you're slowing it down. Just get really comfortable with Jeff grabbing your junk and get in there and let them do the center belts. And then they're going to say hands down. You put your hands down, not across your lap, but away so that they can bring those shoulder belts and make sure that those are across your Hans device. Also, hard to see if you're trying to do this in a hurry. And if you put your shoulder belt underneath your Hans, you've defeated the purpose of the Hans device. So your two co-driver, or your rather two people strapping you in, are going to make sure that those are on there. And then they're going to tug on those waist belts to get it tight. You wave your hand when it's tight enough, and then they're going to tug on the shoulder belts. Jeff, you've got input on this one.
I just want to say that if you are uncomfortable with your friends touching your junk, find a new sport. Because that's
racing.
Part of this game.
Yeah. Sprint racing, just get into it. Now,
if you really don't like the junk rub, you can get a strap on your sub belt that sticks out the front, and you can grab that and pull it. Some people, I'm sure, are going to leave the strap off specifically because they enjoy this moment of gentle caressing. So
intimacy. It's a connection.
We've obviously gotten over the.
Like anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
we're we're comfortable with the junk rub. Now, how can you, as the driver getting in the car, be faster? Standardize everything. One of the things they talked about last week is the 3-pedal mafia. For all of the drivers that carry water when they go, it is on the left side. Have your Camelback in your left hand. If you need a seat cushion to shape the seat to you better, have that in your right hand. Why? Because that's what side the car is on, and the seat cushion goes in first, and then they get the belt, and then you drop your water and get into the car. If you're in a series that you're not allowed to have the driver in the car during refueling, leave that stuff on the other side of the pit wall, because it's just crap for them to trip over. If you're in a series that allows you to do it, if you've got to yank the driver out of the car, put it on the roof. But this is when it's really good to have someone who is dedicated to removing the driver and installing the new driver. And you, as the driver, your only job is to drive. Now, as your team matures and your stints get longer, Chris has mentioned this, really consider having the exiting driver just get out of the way. You're all amped up. You're coming in. It has been a great stint. You've moved everybody up 2 places. You set a personal track record. You're coming in. You're listening to your radio. You loosen the belts. You get on everything. You pull in there. And you don't realize how tired you are until you try to put 2 feet on the ground. And then you're supposed to help? No. Just move and get out of the way. So as your stints get longer, especially you're doing a 4-hour stint, you're more tired than you think you are. And you're just operating on adrenaline for about a minute and a half. In every one of these cases, what your drivers are doing, this has to be standardized across the board. You can't adjust this stuff on the fly for driver preferences. And I actually watched a team at AAR a couple of years ago lose a top 3 at Mid-Ohio because they had an arrive and drive. He got into the car, got out of the car, got back into the car, got out of the car, and he's like, oh man, I just don't feel comfortable.
Got out of the car?
Twice.
Not just move the seat up, move the seat back. Move the seat up, move the seat back.
That's one
move
thing.
The seat up, move
Get
the seat
out
back.
of the car.
Literally,
now.
the pit crew is screaming, "Get in the car!" And he goes, "I'm not taking a race car that I don't feel comfortable in. This is not the time to
Should
have."
figured that out on Friday, dude.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I would have been like, I'm getting in. See ya.
I'm smiling because we've been close to this.
We've been, yeah.
No one
We
ever got
have
out of
had
the car.
people- No one ever got out of the car, but we've had that person adjust that seat 12 times. Just get over it.
Yeah, you need to know what that setting is on Friday, all right? You have one job. It's in your title. Drive. So pit row, not the time to try something new.
Or just suck it up and drive.
Yeah. How many of us have
I mean,
driven in not the ideal position more than
At
once?
Connecticut, I
them.
had
All
like
of
my
us.
fingertips.
Yeah.
My fingertips, the only thing that could reach the steering wheel.
Yeah. Suck it up. The only time I pulled in for that was when the seat adjusted on the boat. And I wasn't that I was uncomfortable. It's just that now the belts were really, really
Yeah,
loose.
I've been there too.
Well, that's
so
when you brake really hard while holding the seat adjustment.
I've done that. I've done that.
Damn it. I
safety-
could have
safety
used that
is-
advice at New Hampshire, Chris.
Safety at its finest.
I'm not going to bring up like going like this and reaching behind my head searching for the radio wire. But let's talk about the cool box.
Or using the iPad while you're driving.
Only sometimes. The cool box setup. We're talking about the cool box setup. In Lemons, cool box is the only thing that you can do on pit lane other than put in fuel in the driver like we spoke about. So we want to talk about is basically you need to set up your cool box for success. We've already talked about this. The water, the snack bucket, the radio controls, the wires. You need to have these things set up for success. Make them the same place in every car. Make sure they're all in good working order. It's the winter. Now is the time to change that radio pigtail. Now is the time to, make sure that the hooks that hold the cool suit box are going to latch it down.
Make sure your belts are actually tight, and so you don't have one of those bolts back out unexpectedly in the middle of a race when you're in second place.
Go over and check all of your stuff. But really, it's just how many times have we lost a radio or lost a cool box and it dumped all over the place, or all of these things because they were too fiddly. So, try and get a cooler that's got a latch on it that you can change with gloves. Ratchet straps, some of them are easy with big, huge, wide handles. Some of them are hard. You got to find a way to get your thumb in. So just make sure that all of your equipment is in proper working order, in a good place that is easily accessible and can be fixed with gloves. It's that simple. All that driver control stuff should be operable with gloves.
Here's an interesting cool box thing that I've heard about, and I just haven't decided to do this, is once you keep dumping ice in, eventually you have too much water in this. So what do? So you've got to get the water out. So some people
we have
use
the solo cup.
cup.
We usually bring a cup.
Yeah. Greg Smith bought a grain scoop. So it's like for feed, animal feed. That seems to work really nicely. Another thing you can do if you have a permanently installed cool box is make a drain fairly high up in the car on the forward side of it, so when you brake and it sloshes up there, and have that drain go down under the car, but don't just go under the car because that's a fuel leak. How about having it go under the exhaust, and then it's just going to be steam because it's just water.
Got a turbo car? Drip it on the intercooler.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So there's
there you go.
That's another thing you can do if you have a more permanently mounted cool boxes, things like that. But you've got to get that water out somehow too.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Outstanding. So the last element of this is when you start having an abundance, or if you're running in double up teams, is having spotting or a radio person. Now, this is going to be someone, they're wearing the Mickey Mouse ears and they've got the radio. And if you've got the spare personnel, generally this is usually, I can't think of really a negative if they're doing it properly. Now, ideally, this person needs to be off of the hot pit, but within visual of the stop. So behind the fence or just on the other side of the hot pits. And if you can be within shouting distance, that's a really good thing because it's a heads up. Hey, you're pitting this lap. And then, hey, Jeff, grab your tube of mockery, headphone there and say, he's on pit row.
He's on pit row. Get
There
ready.
you go.
Get ready.
So,
They're coming
Actually,
in.
one thing I'd really like to see if we can do this year is get radios for everybody that's doing the pit stop, so then they all know what's going on. They can all hear it. And even if they can't talk, the spotter is the one organizing. They can say, Jeff, what the hell are you doing? Go around to the other side and help with belts.
That would be amazing.
Right?
We could talk to each other.
Even if we didn't have to all talk to each other, if the spotter is the one who's just telling us what to do.
Traffic
That's
cop.
Oh.
Right, exactly.
Hurry.
Yeah,
He's
something like
waving.
that.
He's waving. Look up.
Right.
Yeah. So, and this would be a great person on this. So you give the crew a heads up. He's on pit lane. He's coming down. Then you're waving the car in. Now, as the car is coming down pit road, it's a good technique for the radio guy, even if they've already done it. So don't be that obnoxious guy in the car that gets mad when somebody tells you this. But run through that checklist again. Hey, loosen the belts. Hey, disconnect the cool shirt. Disconnect your comm. As they pull in there, go through that as they're coming down there, and that gets them out of the car quicker. When they're installing the new driver, you as the spotter, shut up. Don't get on there and go radio check, radio check, radio check. When they're installing the new driver and they install that comm cord, you slap the new driver on the helmet, and they know that means communications check. So they grab the steering wheel, they throw it on there, they push the button, whatever your particular thing in there, and then they call out and do a comm check. And then you answer. Immediately, while your helper is still there, if they're not answering, that identifies a potential comm problem, and your helper can start checking the connections on the wires. Or if you need to swap out the radio, which, by the way, should be in your pit wagon. Jeff, what do you got?
Another good reason to have a spotter and have everyone on the headphones, because then the spotter can say, hey, Mental, Chrissy did not respond. Please check her mic cable.
Oh, that would be even better. We literally do all of this. I shouldn't tell our trade secrets. We literally do all of this in charades. We're like,
Of course.
I can't hear you. And then you're just like, what?
Well,
this is charade.
First syllable.
The low-tech solution at charades is you have standardized hand signals so that everyone in the pit row knows what it means.
No, we don't have that either.
I'm
Here's your
choking.
standardized hand
choking.
signal there, Mental.
Jeff just
Here it
flipped me
is,
off
right
again,
there.
which normally he does about 9 times a show.
That's hilarious. These are great
Oh,
ideas.
man. These are all great. Gosh darn it. We come up with such good ideas on this podcast. How come we don't actually do any of them? Actually, we do like 80% of these.
Don't tell
Put
people
the
we don't
radio
do them.
in. Standard hand
I try
signals.
to plug the radio in as much as possible. but
You're doing a
normally
bad job.
It's a negative cop check. So, yeah,
So,
I'm
for
just
those
talking
of
to myself.
you who are
really,
not
I'm checking
watching
myself.
on the YouTube channel that doesn't exist, we are all doing the most obscene hand gestures to each other right now. Chrissy's turning red.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
Mental's
looked like
father stopped listening even though he couldn't see us.
To that end, now, folks, if you've got some good pit crew techniques that we have missed, by all means, get a hold of us at everyone.racers, get a hold of us on the Instagrams, get a hold of us on the Facebook. And before we move on to just the tip, I meant to put this in the listener feedback way back, but it had skipped my mind. So we've got some new listeners. Well, I'll say new listeners. They've been listening since August. It is Falkenstein 64. It's a Champ Car team, and they run a Porsche 944. And they actually got a hold of us and asked. They said, been listening to the show since August. And the latest, you mentioned using Jeep TJ sliders. I assume any from the 97 to 02 range are what you use. And before I committed to that fully, I wanted to talk to our chief engineer and safety builder, Chris. Talk to us about the Jeep sliders, because these guys are installing a containment seat in their 944. We talked about already having not a lot of space and having good solid sliders. So tell them what sliders they're looking for.
Yeah, basically any TJ slider. Usually we go with the driver's side ones. Some passenger side ones have like a flip forward feature, so people can get in the back. That makes them work a little less well. So just any TJ 97 to 05, I think they went. Slider works great. When you get it, it's going to have some bracketry on it. I usually just cut all that bracketry off. And then it's going to have 8 studs on the bottom and 4 studs on the top. So if the ones on the bottom, if there's some in the way that you're not going to use, you can just cut them off and then pound them out. They're just press fit in. Or just leave them there. That's fine. Usually we end up using 4 of them. And then the top, use those, or you can cut those off too, and then just weld directly to the top of the slider, which for whatever brackets you need. We've done both. So I usually get them on eBay. There's plenty of Jeep dismantlers because Wranglers are so popular that who wants a seat slider? Like, it's not a common thing that goes wrong. Like, sure, they want the Dana 44 with the locker in it, but no one is thinking about the seat slider. So the last one I bought, I think, was $40 shipped. And it is a perfectly flat slider. It's symmetrical side to side. It's double locking. It has passed OEM crash standards. It looks an awful lot like the Sparco one, that's for sure. But it's a whole lot cheaper.
And the Sparco one is a lot more money. Yep.
Yeah.
You nailed on it. So I would mention that we definitely reviewed the show last week, and Mental said, so what kind of slider do you use? And everybody went, TJ, and we just kept going. We didn't even mention it. So thanks to, what was their name again?
Falkenstein 64, and there's a solid chance
cool.
they're probably going to be running that New Year's Eve at Sebring. So good luck to those guys.
Good luck, guys.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
Awesome.
We'll be doing the same thing I think over the winter with the Civic and putting the containment seat in. And I've been using the stock Civic sliders for years, but may have to go to the Jeep sliders to give us a little more room. But Civic's got a lot of headroom in it. Either way.
Flat as flat can be.
And they're flat
Awesome.
and cheap and safe and available.
Cool. Is it time for Just the Tip? Usually I yell Just the Tip, but then Chris oh, thank you.
Just the tip, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jeff. Just the tip.
So
Usually
was
it's not as much of an announcement when it's just the tip. You're not really excited about it.
I'm excited this time. So listen here. Here's the deal. Just a tip, our regular safety tip. This time I'm taking it from Chrissy because it's all about humans this time. Because I train humans for a living. So does Chrissy, let's be honest. We all kind of, Mental does too.
Yeah,
Mental
do.
writes the manual. He doesn't actually go anywhere and train people, does he?
I just tell people what they're doing wrong.
How many shows have I done from the road this year?
Yeah. Okay, anyway. So listen here. All of your friends are over your house and you're practicing pit stops because we already told you to do this. They brought their gear. The car is in a warm garage. How about practicing getting out of the car when it's on fire?
Mm-hmm.
All right? You need to practice this over and over. Fully belted, with the gear on, rag in your face shield so you can't use your eyes. Do it again and again and again. Everybody gets some chances. And guess what else you're going to do? You're going to watch what the other people are doing, and you're going to tell them what they're doing wrong. Mental, I see you're struggling with this. Try with the other hand. Chrissy, you bonked your head. Duck more. Somebody here suggested making it a drinking game.
Because if you can do it drunk, you can do it in a panic.
Sure. Now, you should be practicing this all the time. At every race, make it a habit of refreshing your memory, closing your eyes, touching the kill switch, touching the belt, touching everything. But now is the time where you can really just hang out all weekend and do repetitive practice. Make it a game. Slowest person has to take a lap around the garage in their underwear, right? Fastest person gets to spray the slowest person with a hose at the back door. See? You thought I was kidding. Now you're excited. When the flames are licking your ass is not the time to try and remember how to do something. Doing it like, oh, go, go, go. You're going to do it at like 80% speed. You might have to run around the garage in your underwear. You're going at 100. All right? Mental.
We've talked about 2 instances this year where cars have caught on fire in amateur endurance racing. But Chris, tell the story of a couple of years ago when the car wasn't on fire, but the carb was leaking fuel onto a hot exhaust manifold.
Oh, the Datsun? Oh, yeah. Mental's Datsun. We were at a Barber, and it was running poorly for a long time. We did some adjustments, and it ran so much better that I promptly went 4 off because I used to be able to go flat through that spot, but couldn't anymore. And then the car promptly died. It wouldn't start. So
car's always fastest right before it breaks.
Yeah, and it
so,
was
okay.
fortunately.
Well, no. So yeah, he brought it in.
Here's we're getting to the good part. So we towed it in. It comes on in, and I stay. I'm in the car still, going to see what they're doing. Mental opens the hood and just yells, "Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!" And so I never had to actually get out in an emergency before, but very happily I was of the presence of mind to reach my right hand down to the kill switch while my left hand was hitting the belts, and then over to the door, and then I just basically fell out onto the pavement.
Out.
But I got out quick.
5 seconds. So fast the track people came over because they wanted to know what was wrong.
Right. Well, the track people had not left yet, and and then we were like, "Oh no, everything's fine here. It's fine. It's fine. No fuel leak at all. It's cool."
No fuel leak to see here. Please don't look.
Right. The point being is you never know. You genuinely never know when this is coming.
Yeah. So we're also going to talk really quickly here about improving the car. So if you're watching your idiot friends get in and out a few times, watch what's happening. Are they whacking their knee in the same part of the cage? Hey, you might want to put a pad there. Is one teammate having real trouble getting out? Maybe put them on a diet or move the seat so your friend doesn't die. Can't find the sub belt? Chris already talked about the strap or the surgical belt, unless you like grabbing your friend's balls. Look, if everyone is having trouble, maybe it's time to ask Santa for a removable steering wheel. Or, hey, change that door bar setup to give everybody a chance to get out. The bottom line is you need to adjust the car and the systems inside it to make sure everyone is safe. And everyone has to survive, not just set it up for the one person who set it up perfect for them. That's why stuff is on sliders. That's why stuff is consistent. That's why you make sure it fits everybody. Right? How many times have we jacked the seat in the E36 this year to make sure different size people can get in it? Thanks,
All
Hamza.
of them. All of them.
Yeah. Hamza's people are really skinny. He built it for built it for his wife, right? Gisela. So she's tiny. He built it tiny. Then we had big guys trying to get in it. Had to adjust the car.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Anybody got a next show promo?
We'll have a show next
You
week.
think we know what we're doing next week?
There's a show next week.
Where have you been? Yeah.
Are we going to suggest that the show might not wait until Thursday? Since it's
The show.
Mahana Kwanzaa?
Yeah. If you're traveling on the 24th, there's a better than average chance you'll have a show available. Because I love you guys, but I don't think you guys love me enough to record on Christmas Eve.
No.
No. I have meal of 7 fishes on Christmas Eve because I'm a Philadelphia Italian.
All of the fishes, the
Cheddar
Parmesan and
goldfish.
the
Yeah.
green ones,
The crackers.
pretzel
Crackers
ones.
count as one of the fish.
I have to say that I laughed so hard. Hold on a minute. Let me push pause here. I'm going to go on a slightly
I
rant.
thought this show was almost
Slightly
over. It's
rant.
like NPR. Now they're asking you for money.
Chris, the funniest joke on this podcast in the last 6 months might have been when you said, "How do they all drive the train?" We were talking about engineers last week.
Oh, that's such an old joke in our
I
house
know,
because my
I
dad's
know.
an engineer. So we talk about train driving all the time.
Almost spit my coffee in the car driving.
I'm glad
Okay.
you like
Goes
it.
with the soup.
Thank you for downloading us. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. We'll hope you'll join us in the world of driving, racing, and building because everyone can be a racer, even you. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. It's totally free. Then go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, even if you have an Android. Go to iTunes because that's the one that counts. If you hate us, give us 5 stars and
or
tell us why.
iHeartRadio or Spotify.
Whatever.
All that. No, seriously, I looked. We're on all of it.
Wherever you are, give
Wow.
us a rating on iTunes. So, if you have any questions or show ideas, drop a comment on our Facebook page, Everyone Racers, or email us at everyone.racers@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram or Twitter at everyone.racers. Thanks again, and until next week, keep the shiny side up. Unless there is no shiny side, then just keep the wheels down.